Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Vincent. I'm Executive Director at Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, or Kansas Housing. And we're thrilled that you're taking part of your evening during what we know is a very busy time of the year, this holiday season, to learn about the Kansas Homeowner Assistance Fund, or KHAF program. It's still a relatively new program at Kansas Housing in response to the pandemic and all of the effects on housing stability in our state. And there's much to learn about it. So we're going to try to keep this brief, but really try to get to the important information that we have to cover tonight. A huge thank you for you taking the time to just learn about this program. We know that during the holiday season in particular, that it reminds us just about the importance of home. And if you're at risk of losing your home, whether it's through tax delinquency, whether it's through not being able to make your mortgage payment, it can be a scary thing. And that's why we're here and why the federal government has authorized this important program to catch people up, to make people whole, and to give them a fresh start to really be able to tackle all of their important budgetary needs. Before we jump into the agenda itself, I do want to do a shout out to a couple of friends who helped make this webinar possible. Eric at Lone Care in Lakeview has been helping put it behind the scenes. We have other servicers, including Mr. Cooper and Right Path and Flagstar, M&T. These servicers are key to not only working with the mortgage companies and the originator, but ultimately to working with you all if you're behind on your mortgage, to getting you connected to these important resources. Thanks to Marilyn and Kim from our team at Kansas Housing that are working behind the scenes. You'll be seeing Marilyn here in a couple minutes. And then a big shout out to Andrew Perry with Widow Bryan's, our contractor partner, who you'll be hearing from as well. It takes a village, not just to put on these webinars, but to make sure that we as a community are supporting each other through difficult times like you may be experiencing. And that's why we're here tonight. A couple of housekeeping things. You're currently muted on this webinar, but you will have the opportunity to submit questions through the dashboard that's on the right, at least it's on my right-hand side of the screen. So as you are watching, as you develop questions, please make sure you post those. Our team will be monitoring those and trying to respond both during the presentation itself, and then afterwards we're going to have a Q&A session to kind of wrap things up. This webinar will be recorded. We're going to be trying to send the recording out through your email that you registered with. So be watching for that to share with colleagues, with friends, with neighbors that may similarly be struggling. So those are the housekeeping. At this point, let me just kind of touch on the agenda itself of what to expect tonight. I realize that many of you may not be familiar with Kansas Housing, the work that we do, the lives that we touch. I'm going to take just a minute to talk about who we are, what we do, as well as just give a 30,000-foot overview of the program so you're familiar with Kansas Housing as an organization. I'm going to then introduce you to Marilyn Stanley, who is a wonderful asset to Kansas Housing and the KHAF program director itself. She's going to give an overview of the program, what we're able to assist with through this program, and then she's going to turn it over to Andrew Perry from Widow Bryan's, who will be giving an application process overview. He'll kind of walk you through, show you how the actual online application tool works, and hopefully we can answer any questions you may have during this webinar. Then we'll go back to Marilyn, who will talk about some other loss mitigation options that you or your servicer may be able to take advantage of. And then we'll wrap up with just that Q&A portion before we let you go for the rest of your evening, this November evening. So that's the agenda itself. Let's jump right into Kansas Housing itself. We have been around for about 20 years. We administer a variety of different community and housing programs. Kansas Housing's mission is simple. We help Kansans access the safe, affordable housing they need with the dignity they deserve. Dignity is key to the work that we do. And while we administer programs and while we work with housing partners, ultimately what we do is we unlock home. We know that home is vital for healthy families, neighborhoods, and communities. Without homes, we can't have good healthcare and education and jobs. That's why we take our mission of unlocking home seriously and why we're honored to be administering the KHAF as well as the other important programs we administer. As far as who we work with, well, we work with you. Whether you're a homeowner that's just struggling to make your mortgage payment, whether you're a loan servicer or a lender, whether you are a community member maybe a realtor, a housing advocate, if you live, breathe, pay taxes in the state of Kansas, you are a stakeholder of Kansas housing. We'll advance the next slide here, and we'll maybe just give a little overview of the programs that we administer. Kansas Housing funds emergency shelters and domestic violence centers around the state. We have wonderful nonprofit partners like community action agencies. Kansas Housing can provide tenant-based rental assistance to people who rent their homes that need some assistance for rent, utility, or security deposits. Kansas Housing also actually funds and finances housing development through our tax credit programs and other development tools. We have a portfolio of affordable housing that's on our website that if you're needing, or if you know of a friend, neighbor, a colleague that may need some assistance, we've got these wonderful properties around the state in your neck of the woods. Kansas Housing has a down payment assistance program. We offer free weatherization assistance. So be aware that there is this resource that if you're needing to upgrade your home, in addition to maybe catch back up on your mortgage, we offer this wonderful free service to provide those, whether it's new HVAC, whether it's weatherization. It's a great resource for your community and maybe you as an individual. Kansas Housing this last 2 years has been very busy providing emergency response. You likely have heard of our Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance, or KHAF program. That program has provided rent and utility assistance to nearly 80,000 Kansans and made 10,000 landlords whole. It's been a huge program and a huge need for our state, but we recognize through the entire KHAF program that we had a big group of people that were homeowners that were similarly struggling, whether they lost jobs, whether they had medical expenses, whether they had lost work hours, and they had gotten behind in their mortgage, they got behind on their taxes. They're at risk of losing their homes just like those renters that were benefited through KHAF. That's why the federal government had funded the housing assistance, or I'm sorry, the Homeowner Assistance Fund, and why KHAF has been thrilled to be able to administer that important resource. At this point, I am thrilled to be able to introduce you to Marilyn Stanley from our team. Marilyn has a vast background in housing credit counseling, but also with Kansas Housing itself the last couple of years. I'm administering the KHAF program, and before that, working with our community action programs. Marilyn, I'm excited to sit back and listen to you tell our audience today about KHAF.
Hey, thank you very much, Ryan. I am very pleased with working for Kansas Housing Resources Corporation. It's an amazing place to work, and I've known Ryan over the years because of his connections out in the community and across the state. So like echoing what he mentioned, thank you for taking time out of your busy evening. We know it's generally dark out in most places in Kansas, and it's cold. So it feels like it's maybe time for bed, but you're here learning about the KHAF program. So thank you so much. All right, so this first slide is just a recap where these dollars come from and how much Kansas was allocated. Keep in mind, every state was allocated a specific amount based on population and a lot of other demographics based on homeowners and how many were past due at the time. And so here we are today. Next slide, please. All right, so where are we at? This is our KHAF universe here in Kansas. Believe it or not, you can see there how many mortgages there are in Kansas right now. Well, actually, this report was at mid-year this year, so at the end of June. So you can see 243,322 loans. And out of those, 10,000, over 10,000 were past due on their mortgage. So you can see that the KHAF program, perfect timing with all those homeowners that were past due to, a lot of COVID reduction of income and increase in expenses, a variety of different hardship issues that we've been working with. So this is our KHAF universe. Next slide, please. All right, so here in Kansas, we did open our program on April the 18th. So it's been open not a terribly long time. Like Ryan said, it's pretty new, but the funds won't last forever. So I'm so glad you're here to learn about it. on our webpage there, which we'll send the slides out with the recording, you'll be able to click on that link. But it lists by county in Kansas how many applications we've received from each county, and how many of those have been approved, and how much funding we've contributed towards homeowners in that specific county. So Kansas has 105 counties, and we have got applications from 95 of those counties. So doing a little checking, because we would like to reach all of Kansas. The remaining counties not only have a population below 10,000, but they also have a very small number of homeowners. And then beyond that, they have even a smaller number of homeowners that actually have a mortgage. So please help us spread the word. I think Ryan mentioned tell your neighbors, your friends, family members that are in Kansas. This program can help them if they're struggling and past due on their mortgage. Next slide. All right, one positive thing about this program, the income guidelines are much higher than most programs that try to assist people who are in need. So you can see here, this is just a few samples of some of the counties across Kansas. Every county is going to be just a little different. Some are a lot the same, but on our webpage, there's a link to those income limits by household size. So for this example, we've used a household size of 4. For example, looking Sedgwick County, the Wichita area. If your family earns if your household earns under $127,200 a year, you could qualify for the KHAF program. And for example, over in Lyon County, the Emporia area, if you earn under $109,200, you could qualify for the program. So it's really nice that because of COVID, a lot of people who had never struggled before, who need help now, are now eligible for this kind of program. Next slide, please. All right, so how do you qualify? Well, it's a federal grant, so we do have specific guidelines that we have to abide by. So of course, the property must be located in Kansas. Again, every state has their own half dollars. It may not be called KHAF. We just put a Kansas in front of that half. They may have a unique name to their program. So, but for our program, you have to be physically, your house has to physically be in Kansas. So it must be the owner of the property. So for instance, you can't be a renter and get help from the KHAF program. Some of you may have heard of the KHAF program that Kansas Housing Resources Corporation had in operation for, I don't know, a year and a half or so. And that program has now exhausted its funding. So please note to help people to not be confused that just because CARE is out of dollars, that does not mean that KHAF is out of dollars for assistance. But this is for homeowners, not landlords. It can't be a vacation house or second, summer home, those kinds of things. The homeowner must also be more than 30 days past due. So we do have a certain number of households that have applied to the KHAF program that were not past due. And they, unfortunately, our program cannot help them unless they are 30 days past due. And it's not only on the mortgage, but also on your property taxes. If you are past due on property taxes that may be not escrowed in your mortgage payment, then they would apply to KHAF and potentially get assistance for this past due taxes. So the key there, again, emphasizing 30 days past due or more. Keep in mind, eligible properties, it could be just about any kind of home that we have here in Kansas. You see there single family, condo, manufactured homes, townhomes. On the manufactured homes, often it could be where they have a mortgage on the manufactured home, but yet they pay a lot rent. Lot rent is rent, so that would not qualify for the KHAF program. But the mortgage on the manufactured home very well could. Next slide, please. All right, so we have structured our program to have 4 categories of assistance. It can get a little confusing. So I want to be clear on mortgage reinstatement, that is the past due mortgage amount. In other words, reinstating your mortgage. So again, they're key past due mortgage payments, and it can include all those things that might be escrow, taxes and insurance. Sometimes it could have some, late fees and legal fees, those kinds of things included in that. Do note that reverse mortgages, although they don't have a forward mortgage payment, that they may very well have tax, they have taxes and things like that that maybe have been charged, and insurance that may have charged, and that is eligible for the KHAF program. So if you know anyone over the age of 62 that has had a reverse mortgage and they need help, this might be an option for them. Also note special contract for deed or land contract. Some people call it rent to own. And the technology, I mean, the words of that is very different. Sometimes people think they're renting to own, but they really are just renting. But for this program, they actually have to have the documents recorded for that. And we would work with that applicant to help them to obtain the proper documentation. Sometimes that includes, we work with Kansas Legal Services to help people assure they get those kinds of documents that are needed. And then mortgage payments, that would be your forward mortgage payments. So if you're going to fill out a KHAF application when we're all done here today, when you're in the preliminary or the pre-qualification questions, it's going to ask you, how much are you past due, and it's going to ask you a lot of information. At one point, it'll ask if KHAF brought you whole today, if it brought you current on your past due, would you have any trouble making your forward payments later after we bring you whole? And if you say yes, it'll give you an option. How many months of forward assistance do you need to help you get started again? And we can provide up to 6 months of forward payments. And so keep in mind that also goes to a maximum assistance limit, which I'll cover in just a minute. Okay, not everyone asks for or needs that 6 months of assistance. Sometimes people just need that past due caught up in maybe a month or something like that. So all of that's taken into consideration with your application. Property charges. This is going to be your property taxes, your insurance, your HOA or homeowner association fees, any kind of common charge like that. But again, those must be past due. We can't just pay forward payments. It's just to bring you current. There's no forward payments at all on that. So very important to understand that. And then utilities, internet and broadband. So some people come to us and they say, gosh, I really need help with my utilities. That's what they want and need. But we can't pay for utilities only. They must first have a past due mortgage or past due property charge, tax, insurance, those kinds of things before we can help with utilities. So that's another important item to note. Also to note, we cannot assist with bundled internet or broadband services. When I say bundled, meaning like it's tied with TV, for example. So we're able to help with internet by itself, for example. So, all right, next slide, please. Very important here, no household shall receive more than $60,000 in total assistance. Someone might be blown away by that amount. It is a lot of money. And so that's why we're very careful with how much we can help people with and that they must in fact be past due. So it's categorized the $50,000, no more than $50,000 in assistance between the past due mortgage and the forward mortgage payments together. So that's where that 6 month that I mentioned a little bit ago comes into play. Let's say you come to me or you come to the KHAF program and you're $45,000 behind on your mortgage, which is not uncommon at this time. If KHAF provides $45,000 to bring you current, you only have $5,000, up to $5,000 available for forward payments. So that may not go very far depending on where you live and what kind of house you have. $10,000 is the maximum for property taxes, HOA together, and utilities and internet together. So where that comes into play, generally homes are foreclosed upon by a tax sale if they haven't paid their property taxes for about 3 years. And so especially in certain counties in Kansas, property taxes may be a little higher. And so often, I don't want to say often, several times it's been that the past due property tax actually exceeds $10,000. So again, it must be below that. Otherwise, KHAF cannot assist unless we can get that balance down below 10,000 somehow. Sometimes people pay a portion of it, or they get a gift from a family member. If they can get the balance to exactly $10,000, then KHAF could reconsider it. It's the same with the past due mortgage. Sometimes people are past due more than $50,000. And so we have to deny the KHAF application, or I should say defer it, until the homeowner can try to find a way to get that past due below $50,000. And we have had people do that. So it's always a success story when that happens. Next slide, please. I should mention, it's almost like, I've told people, it's almost like if you get KHAF assistance and these kinds of dollar amounts, it may seem too good to be true. And, I've spent a lifetime of talking to people about if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Well, this is real. It is not a scam. And that's some of the trouble, that we need people to trust that this program is real and to apply if they need this assistance. So. All right, so does the assistance need to be paid back? This is very important. So if we contribute up to $25,000 to help a homeowner become whole again, then it's completely free and a grant. If it's over $25,000, if it's between that $25,000 and $50,000 range, then we structure it as a 2-year, no interest bearing, forgivable. It's actually not a loan. I actually need to update my slide there. It's now a grant agreement. A grant agreement identifies that the homeowner intends to live there for at least a couple of years. And that way they're stable with their housing. So they can't just turn around, get $50,000 of help, turn around, sell it, and use that money for something else. And so again, the stability of housing is one of the reasons we have structured that in our program. All right, next slide. Facilities. So of course, the key to this is to send your application in. Sometimes this is the overwhelming part for people. They think, oh gosh, I look at this application, it looks like a lot of stuff to put together and upload and fill out, but you've got to do it. If you need help, do it right away. And Andrew's going to go over some samples of how you may do that. But again, you'll need copies of bills where you could even use your smartphone and take a picture and upload it. It could be that you maybe pay your bills online and you can download a copy of your recent statement. And then, of course, it'll be important to monitor your email and log in your status to check your status. Next slide, please. All right. So I want to tell you before we get ready to pass it to Andrew here that we are working with the HUD housing counseling agencies. I think Ryan mentioned that earlier, and also Kansas Legal Services. And how the KHAF program partners with them, it could very well be that someone is paying more than 31% of their income on housing costs. And if they're doing that, there's not a lot of room for other things. So we would then make a recommendation that and ask the HUD Housing Counseling Agency to call you and offer you at no cost to you a one-on-one counseling session They'll help you do a budget, come up with a plan of action on how you can get things to balance, tell you about resources. And in some cases, people realize, gosh, my income is permanently changed, and maybe I just can't afford this house anymore. And there could be a variety of other options that might be. And then they could also talk to you about additional foreclosure prevention options, even if KHAF is or is not an option for you. So please know that there is a foreclosure timeline available. Each state is just a little different on their foreclosure process. It may be helpful for you to know if you're behind on your mortgage, how much time you have, right? So here it's referenced the Attorney General's office has a nice foreclosure timeline for Kansas. And I believe at least one of the other housing counseling agencies has a timeline as well. We are a judicial district here, so it takes a little bit of time compared to some other states. But you know how time can fly. Before you know it, it could be the sheriff's cell. So it's really important that you're aware of that timeline and all of these options available to you. Next slide. These are the HUD housing counseling agencies that we've been partnering with since the program opened. These are the physically located in Kansas agencies. So Community Housing of Wyandotte County only works in Wyandotte County, but they have amazing HUD housing counselor there. Consumer Credit Counseling Service is physically located in Wichita and Salina, but can serve people across the state of Kansas. And Housing and Credit Counseling is physically located in Topeka and Lawrence, but again, can serve the entire state of Kansas. All nonprofit organizations licensed and regulated by the State Banking Commissioner, they're HUD approved, and they can be very comprehensive and confidential with your situation. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to show us a little bit about what the application system looks like and how to complete it. Thank you, Andrew. Got you on mute.
Can you hear me now? Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Marilyn. I will go and share my screen now. Okay, so as Marilyn stated earlier, to navigate to the portal that the state of Kansas has set up to facilitate the KHAF program, you'll first go to khhousingcorps.org, and from here you can easily navigate to the KHAF section of Kansas Housing's webpage. And then from here, you will go and click Apply and Log In Now. And so we have built a easy-to-use portal that will walk you through everything you need to provide the information and the documentation for you to apply and be considered for KHAF assistance. This website was designed so that you can use it on the computer, on your phone. You can apply on behalf of a family member who maybe can't navigate the portal as well as you may. And so we really designed this to be easy and simple to use. And then so from here, when you want to start your application, you'll first click Register Now. And then when you click Register Now, that will take you to this page here where you'll just input your basic information, your name, first name, last name, and email. And then if you're applying for yourself, you'll click Homeowner. If you're applying on behalf of someone else, you'll click Homeowner Representative. And so what happens here, once you click Register, the email that you inputted, you'll receive a confirmation email there. And when you click on that link, it will have you set a password. And then once you do that, you're able to log in. And so you'll go navigate back to the login page. You're going to input your email and the password that you just set and click Log In. And what that will do, it'll take you to the beginning of the application. And so we've structured the application to start with the pre-eligibility screen. So all of those parameters that Marilyn shared earlier that you have to possess, such as you're a homeowner, do you live within the state of Kansas, is represented on this page, because we don't want you to have to go through and submit and spend time completing an entire application if you don't meet one of the fundamental eligibility criteria. And so this home page is meant to screen and let you have the confidence knowing that at least, when you're looking at the fundamental eligibility criteria, that you meet that. And so again, we're going to go through the questions. Do you own your primary residence, and is it within the state of Kansas? If you would click yes. Has your household experienced a financial hardship due to COVID-19? A hardship means a material reduction in income or increase in living expenses that you can somehow associate with either directly or indirectly to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're going to want a little bit more information there. So we want to know, when did your financial hardship begin? It had to be related to COVID, so it has to have happened on or after January 21, 2020. So you'll be asked to prompt to input a date. I click up here, which then gives you the months. If you click it again, it will take you to the year. So I'm going to go in to 2020, and let's just say November 2020, the 15th. This doesn't have to be exact. If you know the exact date that your hardship began, please put that, but otherwise a ballpark value will suffice as well. Then we want to know, what was the basis for why your household, either your income was reduced or you had additional expenses. And so you would click everything that is applicable. So we'll say wages, current and past unemployment, and then narrative. Has your household had any additional expenses related due to the pandemic? In this application, we're going to say no. We had no additional expenses, but we had loss of income, which again would qualify you under the kind of fundamental eligibility criteria. Then if you were to select other, we'll just want you to add some additional information here. So you have a narrative box that you can add additional information and hit that and save. Then the next question is, have you fallen at least 30 days or more behind on the following payments in conjunction with your home? Your mortgage, your property taxes, your insurance, or HOA or condo fees. Then you would click yes. Here we want to know, do you receive SNAP benefits or other government assistance? And so if you qualify for a means-tested governmental program, that means that your income had been tested for you to be eligible for that program, such as SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, and other programs. And so if you had, we can streamline your application review. Instead of you having to provide the full income documentation, you'd simply provide proof that you are a beneficiary of one of these means-tested government programs. But here we're going to say no. Then we scroll back up to the top. We want to know, what is your preferred language? In this case, we're going to say English. We want to know, what county do you reside in? And this is important because, as Marilyn showed before, the area median income limits varies by county by county. So in this case, we're going to say we're going to be in Shawnee. And then we want to know the number of people in your household. This is all children and all adults who live in that house more than 50% of the time. Live-in age and unborn children are not to be included. In this case, we're going to say 3. Then we want to know, what is the total monthly gross income of you and any other income generating individual in your household. There's a couple exclusions that are specified here, but we're going to say in this case $9,000. And then once you kind of go on to the next question, you'll see, based off of the county, based off the number of people in your house, we will approximate based off what your total monthly income is, what your annual income would be, and then we put the max income allowed per program rules. So we can see in this case we are several thousand under the 3-person household in Shawnee County AMI limit. And so now that we've completed all of the questions, we can hit continue. But I wanted to show what happens if you completed a question in the negative. Let's say you are current and not behind on any mortgage or property taxes. If you were to go here and hit continue, you'll see an error message pop up at the top. You do not qualify for HAF because you have not fallen behind on one or more payments in conjunction with your home. The good news is if you click that by mistake, you can come down here and click edit and change your response and then hit continue, which now we're going into the rest of the application. So now that we've made it past the pre-eligibility screen, you're going to see all of the different sections of the application that we have to complete. So the first one after completing pre-registration is the address. So we want to know, what is your current address? And so for this example, we are going to say we live at 635 Southwest Gage Boulevard in Topeka, Kansas, and then we'll put in the zip code here. If you have a different mailing address, such as you don't get mail from the U.S. Postal Service to your house in which you reside in, and instead have a P.O. box, that you would input that information here. If you don't, you can leave that blank. So when you hit save, we have a address validation feature built in, and so we will suggest the address if it's completed differently, as it's written in the USPS database, and you're given the option of whichever option you want to select. You can see here, you can see that we've added the additional 4-digit zip code numbers there. So we're going to hit save here. And you'll see once you complete a section in full, you'll get a blue check mark. And when it's not complete, you'll have this caution triangle. So next, we want to know about the occupant. So if you recall, we put 3 individuals. It'll be the homeowner, in this case, Joey Test, his spouse, and then their dependent. So what you do is for each individual, you're going to add information. And so for here, we're going to go add details. You'll see the fields that are required with a red asterisk. Any field that is not required will not have that asterisk. So we do want your phone number. And so if it's a cell phone number, go here. If it's a cell phone number, you'll have the option, do you want to receive text notifications about your application? This will tell you when you submit an application, if we require additional information, and then at the point of which your application is dispositioned, whether you've been approved or otherwise. You can receive information by email always, but if you want it also by text, you'll make sure that you keep this option selected. The Social Security number is not required, but we do ask that if you are not going to provide your Social Security number, that you select, I am not providing my Social Security number. We do require the date of birth. Again, if you click at the top, you can navigate to year. So this individual is going to be born in 72, let's just say July, and they identify as male. You have options to identify as male, female, other, or decline to answer. And that goes similarly for race and for ethnicity. For race, you are able to select multiple races that you would identify as. However, for ethnicity, you have to select only one. We want to know if you are currently employed or unemployed. So we're going to say for Joey that he is not unemployed. And then we have some other demographic information that, again, is optional. If you have an alternate contact information that you want to be contacted in case that we need more information, you'd input that information there. So now you'll see that we hit save, and then we'll get a success banner at the top. We'll go and click exit up here or hit close down here. And you'll notice that the red box turned green for the homeowner. And so next we're going to go fill out the information for the significant other. And so this individual will be named Lisa. You are not required to provide a phone number for any additional occupants. Again, going through, would not prefer to provide a social security number, but we do require the year and the gender and the race and ethnicity. And then, are you currently unemployed? For this individual, we will say yes, they are. And then we're going to want to know, when did you become unemployed? We're going to say that they were unemployed during the pandemic and hit save. Note that we will require documentation to substantiate the information that you've provided, and you'll be prompted to provide that later on in the application. And then for the final, we're going to have our dependent Timmy test. We're going to say that they are under 18. And so we'll say they were born in 2017. And note that when they are under the age of 18, we don't ask additional information such as, are you unemployed? So now you will see we've completed the occupant information for the 3 occupants, and note that we now have a blue checkbox at the top. Next, we will want to get the income information from the various individuals who are above 18 years old. You'll notice that Timmy Test is not included because he is under the age of 18. So you'll go and click Add Documents. And so we want to know, what type of income are you stating that you have? You have the different options here: SNAP, wages, tips, overtime, unemployment, alimony, pension, Social Security, and other. So we're going to just state that this individual only receives wages. And so we'll say they receive $9,000 per month, and you'll be prompted to upload documentation. So you'll go and upload the pay stubs. You'll notice as you upload a pay stub, it'll be added to the case file. You are able to download it or delete it. And we need a 1 month period worth of income. And then we're going to say for this, we aren't receiving any other sources of income, and we'll click Save. For Lisa, this individual is not receiving any income, so all we'll do is go to the very top and click if you do not receive any income, or if you're unemployed, select this, and you'll notice that all of these other options have been selected. Hit Save, close. Now you'll see that we've completed these. We're going to hit Next. Then we want to know, what sort of assistance are you requesting? We have mortgage past due, homeowners insurance, HOA fees, and property taxes past due. So in this instance, we're going to say that we are $30,000 behind on our mortgage, and we'll be asked to provide documentation to support that. We want a mortgage statement just showing that you are past due on your mortgage. Then we'll say we are behind on HOA costs by $3,000. If you recall what Marilyn shared earlier, KHAF has up to $50,000 in mortgage-related assistance, and then up to $10,000 in property charge and utility assistance. And so you'll see here the $30,000 is being tracked against that $50,000 figure, and then the HOA fees is being tracked against the $10,000 limit. We'll have to upload documentation to support that you are past due on your HOA. So here we are uploading an HOA statement, and then we're going to hit save. Notice that this section is now complete, but we have a new section called mortgage information. If you are not requesting mortgage, so this field would be 0, this this section would be suppressed and you wouldn't need to complete it because it's not applicable. But because we are requesting mortgage related assistance, we will go in here and provide various information. And so we're wanting to know, what is the loan number? And again, anything that's not asterisked in red is optional. Are you pending a foreclosure? Do you have an approved forbearance? If either of these are true, we want to know some information associated. What type of home is your home? We want to know, is it a single family, a condo, a manufactured home, or a mobile home? And so we're going to say it is a single family attached property. How many units is your property? If it's single family, you're just going to hit 1. Then we want to know, do you need assistance in making upcoming mortgage payment assistance? As you know, KHAF will also fund up to 6 months of additional mortgage assistance once your mortgage has been fully reinstated. So that still is tracked within that $50,000 limit. So knowing that we're requesting $30,000 past due, we'll say, yes, we would like some assistance in making upcoming mortgage payments. And then we'll select how many months of assistance we might need. So in this case, we're going to say 4. Are you under active bankruptcy? Yes or no? And then, are you behind on a second mortgage that is at least 30 days past due? If yes, you'll note that here, and a separate case will be created for you. In this case, we're going to say no. And then we just want to know, what is your monthly mortgage payment? So in this case, we're going to say it's $2,100. Moving on to the next, what sort of utility assistance? You'll have the option to say, I'm not in need of utility assistance, but if you are, you're going to navigate up to the top right and select what type of utility. So we're going to say electrical. We want to know, how past due are you? So we're going to say 500. What's the past due amount? We'll pay your past due and your current due amount. So we'll say 400 of this is past due, and that represents 2 months of being behind. And then we want to know what your the invoice date that corresponds to support that. So we'll say this one is the 28th. And then we want you to put in your account number and hit save. So once you hit save, you'll be required to upload a utility document. And so we'll add that here. Then hit save again and close. Note that you'll now have a line item showing that you are requesting $500 in electrical assistance. If you want to add a different utility, you'd go up and click this plus button again and go through it, selecting what the other appropriate utility assistance that you are requesting. We're going to say we're not in this case, though. Next, so we've gone in and we've provided all the information we need to support our eligibility for the homeowner assistance program. So next, we need to provide the documentation. And note, we require documentation for the applicant as well as any occupant who's over 18. If you're under 18, we don't need any documentation to support. So first, we want to know for applicant info, we need a driver's license or some other form of identification. Upload that. Proof of occupancy. We want to have assurance that the property that you are requesting assistance for is the property in which you reside at, and it is your primary residence. And so we need a utility bill or a tax statement showing the service and mailing address as your property. Upload that. If you are under foreclosure, you can upload that file here. Again, only the items with a red asterisk are required. Proof of ownership, we need to substantiate that you do indeed own your home. Upload that. And notice that there is no other required document. You'll see now there's a green checkbox for Joey. For Lisa, we have only one documentation requirement, because under the homeowner, we're also asking for, in addition to the applicant documentation, we're requiring household documentation under this section. So for Lisa, all we need to do is provide that driver's license. And then hit next. So then you are at the point in which you are able and ready to submit your application. So we will ask you to draw your signature and then your initials, and hit save. So the next, you're going to have a embedded TPA and attestation promulgation. So what this is this gives us the ability to engage and correspond with your loan servicer, as well as other stakeholders that are required to move your application to fully dispositioned. Then we want you to agree and attest to a list of items, just knowing basically that everything you are submitting is truthful, accurate, and complete. So once you do that, you'll go to the bottom, you're going to click here to sign, and then you're going to add a date. And so you click there to add a date. Now you'll have that there. So the very last thing we do is we check box this truthfulness attestation here. And then we are able to submit the application. Note that you're able to go back through and review everything that you inputted, and if you need to change anything, you'd click edit. But we are ready to submit. And now the application is considered submitted. So now you'll have a new section that whenever you log in, you'll be able to see. It's called your case tab. You'll be able to see what your case number is up top, and then what the status is. So it's going to first start off as applied. Once the case team from Kansas Housing begins to review your application, it'll show in progress. And then once it's been fully dispositioned, whether approved or denied, that will be stated there as well. And you'll see when it was last updated on. So whenever you log in, you can come and see this information there. And so with that, that's the case application process. Again, I hope you found that to be relatively straightforward and intuitive. Again, if you have any questions as you're completing yours, please call the call center. They're there to help you and can help walk you through the application and make sure that you can get it submitted. And with that, I will turn it back over to Marilyn. And thank you all for allowing me to present.
Awesome job, Andrew. You make it look very simple, which I think it's a lot more simple than it might feel when you just get started. So thank you very much. All right, I think I have just one more slide and then we'll pop to questions. I know we have some great ones in the question box there. So it's important to know that KHAF, actual assistance, is not your only option. Sometimes it can be combined with some other things. Sometimes it is the better option. Other times, here are a list of items that may be helpful for you to know. If nothing else, to know they exist. Sometimes the terminology can be a little tricky unless you're working in that industry. And again, reminding you that those HUD housing counseling agencies and our Kansas Legal Services partners they know this language, so they can help you navigate that and work with you to your loan servicer. So a forbearance, I think we have one of the questions we have in the boxes about forbearance. This is when your payments are temporarily stopped or held up. And so we'll touch on that some more now, but that is an option for people to assist them based on their circumstances. A repayment plan. This could be, let's say you're past due $5,000 and you apply to the mortgage servicer, and based on your situation, a repayment plan is the best. It may be that they split up that $5,000 over the next, say, year. And so you'd pay your regular mortgage payment plus some of that past due split up over the next year, then you'll become whole again. A mortgage loan modification. This would likely adjust your mortgage payment. And you know, interest rates are going to vary here. As we know, they're a little higher than they have been. So be careful if you're thinking about a modification, paying attention to that interest rate, and you may still decide that the modification is the best option for you. If let's say you've had your house for a number of years and you've paid it down quite a bit, and your circumstances are that you need a lower payment. If the math comes out where it's a lower payment and it benefits you, then that could be a very, very good option. Just pay attention to that interest rate, and in the end, what the full cost of that loan is going to be for you, not just the immediate payments, and understanding it. And then a deferral or a partial claim. Partial claim is going to be generally more your FHA kinds of loans. That's where they can take that past due, and because you're paying because it's government backed, that past due could go into a different loan where you wouldn't have to make payments on it until your first mortgage was paid off, or you sold your house, of course. So that can help bring people whole again or current again as well. There's been some confusion. People with a partial claim have it's thought, oh gosh, can't KHAF pay off my partial claim? No, we cannot. Some states have programs that do that, but Kansas program does not. And a partial claim in the end is a self-fix. You've solved your problem without KHAF assistance. And then, of course, the repayment options vary by your investor, your type of mortgage, all of those different things. Now, the last but least options there, the traditional sale. Sometimes certain circumstances, maybe you're done, you're ready to move on from that house. Maybe that house is more than you can afford in the long range. So it could be that you go ahead and put it up for sale and try to sell it. Property values appear to be up right now, so you could actually possibly make some money on that. There's also a deed in lieu of foreclosure. That's where you give the house back. Back in 2008, when there were a lot of foreclosures going on, there was like cash for keys, where basically you give the house back, and then you in the end save a lot of legal fees, and it's much easier on both you and the mortgage servicer. And then there's a short sale. Those are for homeowners that are upside down on their house. For example, your house is worth $100,000, but you owe $120,000. And so how could you possibly sell it if it's only worth $100,000? Well, in those circumstances, it could be that the lender or the servicer would agree to a short sale. Not seeing as much of that, but back in 2008, that was happening all the time. People are just upside down. If you've ever been upside down on your car, you know, you can't trade it in, you can't sell it. You owe more than it's worth. That's what it's like, but it's for your house. All right, next slide. And I think we're, after this, I think we're ready for questions. Just a quick recap on our webpage. We do have a lot of documents available for you. There's a fact sheet, a flyer, all the income limits, a checklist. We do also have it in Spanish. So again, please tell people that you know that may be helpful. Currently, or as of Monday, we had 4,216 applications. 400 of those were in progress. It takes a little time. Know that you apply, you're not going to get an immediate approval. It can take weeks, and in some circumstances even longer. I think common average time might be about 6 weeks before it's all said and done. There's a lot of traffic going back and forth electronically between the lender and us, and the lender and us, and then we could be missing something from you of the applicant. So there's a lot of time involved there. Some of the lenders are responding immediately. Some of them are responding to records by all states daily. Others may do it every couple of weeks, and so it takes some time. So we have approved nearly 3,000 applications. That's nearly 3,000 homeowners we brought whole again to the KHAF program. And we've provided over $32 million in assistance. And then just remembering we've served 95 counties to date. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder. This is the link to that KHAF webpage, and then highlighting the KHAF call center because we are here to help. The call center is available Central Time, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that number, you see it ends with the letters KHAF so that hopefully you could remember it. And then you can always, if it's hard for you to make calls or something like that, you can submit the contact us form and someone would get back to you by email. All right, I'll bring Andrew and Ryan back on. I know we have these questions, and it's 7:03. So, Brian, I think you've seen we are. Someone said we are in forbearance. Does that count? Yes, you should go ahead and apply to KHAF as quickly as possible. One thing to note there: some of the servicers state that you're current when you're in forbearance. So, but a lot of them don't. So it depends on how that lender operates the common data file that we work with internally, logistically through the program. If they report that you're current, you're probably going to get a denial from the KHAF program. But then when your forbearance is over, then you would become delinquent, assuming you haven't paid all that past due. And then we can submit a new record to your servicer to verify that you're in fact past due. I think that's only maybe 1 or 2 servicers that I'm aware of anyway. Good question. And let's see, it looks like, how about a reverse mortgage? Does the program assist? Yes, we have few reverse mortgages we've helped with, but we have helped with them. So for those of you who don't know, a reverse mortgage, again, is for people over the age of 62 who had equity in their home. They can get that in a lump sum, or they can get it in payments for a number of years or payments for life. But the key is they have to keep up on their home repairs, they have to keep up on their insurance and their property taxes. And so they don't have to repay that money until they pass away or sell the house. But the heirs do not get the home in the trust when the person passes away. And so it's kind of a family decision. But what happens is sometimes that homeowner doesn't keep up on those insurances and property tax and repairs and those things, and they become in default on their reverse mortgage. And then that's where, if they are in that situation, they should apply to KHAF and we can help bring them whole again. So very good question.
I always appreciate your vast knowledge on this. You can tell you've had a lot of history in your prior life with the homeowner counseling, and what a valuable thing for KHRC and those on this webinar as well. Another question that came in that I might just tee up is,
Sure.
you know, you talked about earlier in your presentation that if it's a certain amount, the KHAF assistance, that we're going to actually put it in the form of essentially a forgivable loan. There was a very thoughtful question that if you know, somebody accepts the KHAF assistance and then decides later to refinance their mortgage to lower payments, you know, if the interest rates were to drop, does that forgivable loan still forgive. Does that make sense? And do you have a good response to that?
Yes, that is very tricky. That has come up. You want to think seriously about that. Do you want to stay in the home? But if it's truly for a better interest rate, you're actually still going to remain in the home, you're not cashing out on that equity, then we can consider that. So communicating with us at that point would be really important. Hopefully interest rates will go down again, right? So you might want to do that.
No, we've all been watching that. And the last question I actually see, and then there may be others that get posted, is we're able to request 6 months of forward payments under the KHAF program, as you shared earlier. Now, if a homeowner requests that assistance and then doesn't ultimately need it, can they let it be known that they no longer need that assistance and presumably return those funds, or how does that generally work?
Absolutely. And Andrew can certainly jump in there. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're submitting an application, you're submitting it at a point in time based off of the circumstances at that given point. And so we understand that circumstances can change. And so if you had requested 6 and you don't any longer need that 6, you can let the program know, and we'll terminate any payments from that point forward. Unless there's some other extenuating circumstances at play, you wouldn't be required to return what had already been paid out. So yeah, absolutely. When you let us know, we can stop those additional payments from going out the door.
That's great. Is that all the questions we have?
Like all of them, we must have gotten thrown so much information out. We'll keep it open for just a minute longer in case any final questions come through. We know we're a little over time tonight. And then it is the holidays and everyone's busy, but we just truly appreciate this time that you've taken with us today to learn about KHAF, to learn about Kansas housing and the other resources that we have. Very much remind you that the link is on your screen. The call-in information is available. Definitely complete that KHAF contact us form if you want to get some additional clarification down the road after you've had some time to review this. Be watching your email. You should be receiving a link to the recording. And I'm not seeing any other questions come through. So Marilyn, Andrew, anything to close this evening?
My comment is don't wait, apply now. So very important. Thank you.
Well, thank you all and enjoy your evening. Thanks for joining us with this particular presentation, as well as the important work that we do unlocking home for those we serve. Have a great night.